Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the District with State Senator Suzanne Weber. Suzanne, how are you?
Well, I'm just fine. Should I turn on the light? Could I be seen better?
Sure, why not?
All of a sudden, I realized I was kind of sitting in the dark here. It's such
Story
a
of
nice
my
day
life.
outside.
Story of my life. Yeah, we'll see if this works.
I don't know if it helps or not. Oh, there I am. Yeah.
Hey, if it makes you feel
Okay.
better about yourself, that works. Well, we skipped a week, mostly because you had a great interview with Lisa at Tillamook today, so we included that as kind of
Yes.
our recording. We don't want to overwhelm folks. We know everybody's got has lives, but we're back at it today. You had another busy week.
I did.
What'd you have going?
I was in Salem all week. We had committee meetings, of course, and constituent meetings. And we're especially, because I'm on the Education Ways and Means Committee, it was a really important week because this week we passed the higher education budget out of the Education Committee onto the larger committee. And it was much larger than what had originally been intended, with our community colleges gaining a great deal of money. So I think that it was a good budget. I think that the larger Ways and Means Committee will also okay it. And then by the end of the session, it will come to the floor and it will be voted on.
Excellent.
I really feel good about it.
I
And
know
we
you've
also,
been. That's one of the committees that actually works every day. You know, most of the committees that meet, their policy committees, they meet usually twice a week. But the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Education that sets the budget of many agencies. It isn't just like K through 12 or higher ed. It's the cemetery board, the real estate agency. It's all these things that have anything to do with education. Those budgets come through you, so you meet every single day.
Yes, we do. And, it is a joint committee. So it is the Senate and the House.
Right.
And so that adds another flavor to it also, because the House has, opinions that it brings to the table too. So there's some really good discussions. There are, there's a lot of back and forth discussion, and it's a good committee.
Right.
I enjoy the work we're doing there.
It's Ways and Means again. So if the Education Committee, whether it's the House or whether it's the Senate, passes a new policy to say we think schools should do this, and it's decided it's going to cost money, that is referred to the Ways and Means Committee, which sends it to its subcommittee, appropriate subcommittee, which in your case would be the Education Subcommittee. And you guys get to decide, well, that's all fine and good, but we only have so much money. So we have to set priorities. So that's really what you're doing.
Well, yes, it is. And, we start with the governor's budget and we look at that, and then we take testimony from a lot of different groups. Well, everybody who's involved in getting any of that money to see if that's going to be adequate. And we've had some really interesting testimonies and sessions, especially revolving around our higher education groups, and meeting a lot of students, and they're telling us how they're benefiting from the various programs that the HEC is offering. And it's a good committee. It's a good learning place. And I think that people will be happy with the amount that was decided on. Now, of course, the larger Ways and Means Committee could do some changes, but at this point in time, I doubt that they will.
Right. Because that's your job, right? Is to send a budget to them.
And you know how important I feel that funding education is.
Right.
And I have had a lot of emails and letters from school districts talking about the K-12 budget, and from the higher education group, asking, please look into this, please support this. And
Right.
a lot of opinions in how our education system might not be adequately funded.
Right.
We're 34th in the nation for our funding of our higher education,
Right.
which, that's below half, and
Right.
that's kind of disconcerting.
And I think it's important for everybody to know that just because you guys don't recommend funding a project, doesn't mean you don't think it's a good one. It just means
Right.
we have so much money, and hopefully it's something that can be tied to something else, and we can come back up next year, because you guys have another session coming up here in about 7 months.
Yes.
So it's not the end for some of these projects. It's just that you're not saying
Right.
no for a lot of them. You're saying just not now. We have so many other things
Right.
that we have to do. So very, very important. You also had a couple other events that you attended this week. Let's hear about those.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I had a fun one, and I had a serious one. Okay, the fun one is that the city of North Plains turned 60 years old. And they had an ice cream social with Tillamook ice cream, I might add.
Of course.
On Thursday night. And I was able to get there, and it was crowded. There were the mayor and the council were passing out ice cream, and they were very generous, I might add. And then the other fun thing was that Johnny Limbo and the Lugnuts provided the music for the evening, and they're having an anniversary too, because they're 45 years old, and they've been coming to Tillamook a long time. They have been participating in all kinds of events up and down our district for all those years. So people were dancing in the streets, and I will tell you that the line for ice cream was never less than a block long.
All right. So as I recall, Tillamook also donated that ice cream. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. This is the second year they have done that. And the council president was extremely happy for that. And it was the mayor's birthday.
I was just going to say, it was the mayor's birthday. Heck of a party for the mayor.
Yes.
Well, Madam Mayor, happy
It was
birthday
good to
to
see
you.
old friends. It was good to see old friends, talk with people, and just enjoy the evening. And of course, the weather was absolutely perfect. And then the other thing I did this weekend was I went yesterday and spent most of the day in Portland with the Heart for Oregon. And it was praying for Oregon and praying for the city of Portland. And it was a very moving experience to see how people feel about saving our Portland and making sure that our larger state can thrive.
Right.
Met some wonderful people. One of the people that is a leader in this is from Tillamook, Linda Hanratty. And so she was there, and I spoke on education and politics, and offered my prayers also for the city of Portland.
Good thing to remember is that part of your district does go into Portland. I don't know if it goes into the city of Portland, but it certainly goes into unincorporated Multnomah County, at least.
Yes.
So it wasn't that you were just dive bombing into a place that wasn't yours. You do represent that part. But even if you didn't, Portland is the tail that wags the dog. It is the state's largest city. And so when things aren't going well there, it affects the entire state, whether we want it or not. So prayers, thoughts, good vibes, whatever you want. It's easy to beat up on Portland, make fun of it, but when it is in a bad place, it's not good for any of us. So
right,
glad you were able to do that.
Yeah, I was really glad I was able to do that.
Right. Well,
So
obviously we've talked about a number of things, good things that you continue to do, but the elephant in the room continues to be that the Senate Republican and Independent caucuses are both continuing to deny quorum on the floor. You continue to work, but you are not attending the floor sessions out of objection to a couple of bills that have been pushed through. And you've made it pretty clear that you don't intend to come back unless these are dealt with, except for, I believe Leader Knope said that you certainly would come the end of the session to make sure that the budgets are passed.
yes,
Working with your staff, we've heard a number of objections that have come from, they've come from the Democrats, the majority party. They've come from unions. They've come from some objections that we've seen in your emails.
yes.
It seemed like a good opportunity here to address some of them.
I think it is.
So I've got 9 of them here that I would just like to give you an opportunity. I'll read them one at a time, and then we'll have a little conversation.
Sure.
I think this is most of them. Yeah, no hard questions. No hard questions.
No matter.
And I think it's important that there are people who genuinely have these objections, and they deserve to be addressed.
Yes, they do.
There are also people who are paid to have these objections. Public employee unions have been spending quite a bit of money to attack you. And it's important to remember that these are generally outside attacks from outside the district coming in on you. But they're out there. So this is an opportunity, I think, for you to talk about.
And these attacks also spread false information.
Right.
Which is because people don't necessarily have the time to learn all of the particulars of what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
You remember the last walkout, the Republicans left the state.
Correct.
They were gone. They did not participate in anything in Salem. This is not the case. We go to work every day. We go to our committee meetings. We meet with constituents. Whatever work there is to be done, we do. However, we do not go to the floor for the floor session to provide a quorum to vote on these bills.
Right. Well, this is the first objection. Let's get to the first objection. The first objection that we often see is you need to get back to Salem.
I'm there every day.
I giggle at this because sometimes those emails come in as you are sitting in your office or in a committee.
Well, yes. And
so you are in Salem. You have not left Salem. You will.
I have not left.
Yeah.
I do come home on the weekends to check on my house and water the plants and do my laundry. But otherwise, I'm in Salem. And, a lot of days I'm there at 7 o'clock in the morning in the Capitol.
Right.
Developed some good friendships with the folks that are running the metal detectors. Having still an interesting time parking my vehicle in an undersized spot. But you know what? I'm there every day. Now, I don't have any committee meetings on Friday. In fact, there are no committee meetings except for Ways and Means on Friday currently. There was a conduct committee that met on Friday, and when that was being held, I was there. But otherwise, we go until 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and that just about finishes off the week. But we're there, we're working, we're discussing, we're with our colleagues.
Right. Yeah. So the response to get back to Salem is she's never left. So
I've never left.
That's the response to that one.
See, that's what I was alluding to when people are putting all this false information out there. They're putting out information that people may be believing because
Right.
it seems kind of sensational, and they also have the past to rely on. This is not the past. This is
Right.
how it's going to be. And the governor has said that she will not send the police for us.
Right.
And, that's appreciated too.
Right. All right. So that is the first objection. The second objection is one of the reasons that you object to House Bill 2002, which is probably the biggest bill that you object to. One of the examples you lay out is that 10-year-olds could get abortions without their parents even knowing about it. Well, one of the folks who want to call you out on that is saying that if a 10-year-old is pregnant, she probably does need an abortion. What's your reaction to that?
This is not really about abortion. This is about parents' ability to be involved in their child's medical decisions. Because 2002 takes that out of the parents' hands. And there are 35 states in the country who have addressed this adequately by saying that there is a judicial bypass, and that children can go to people that are mandatory reporters and have protection and someone to listen to them. And we have all of those things in place right now.
Right.
But to take the rights away from parents, I think is abhorrent, because that's what this is all about.
So I want to talk a little bit about what judicial bypass is. As the senator said, 35 states have some sort of a parental notification or parental consent. If a 10-year-old really got pregnant and decided she wanted to have an abortion, she could go to a doctor, she could go to a counselor,
Yes.
who would be able to assist her in going to a judge, who would then say, who she could then say, I'm afraid my father is going to hit me, or he's going to abuse me, or my parents are very, very religious and they're going to throw me out of the house. And the judge can make the decision. In fact, in some states, even a doctor could make that decision. And then the whole situation at that point is taken care of. If that was really the concern, if that was the majority party's objection, that those rare cases are what you're trying to fix, that would fix it. And there are 35 other states what you could look to for a model of how to fix it. This is weird.
Yeah, figured that out.
Yeah, you already have. It's already been done. It's done in these states, and these are conservative bastions such as Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Colorado. And of course, I'm being sarcastic. These are not conservative states. Colorado, you might be able to make a point that, well, maybe it's purple, but Massachusetts certainly isn't. Rhode Island certainly isn't. These are liberal states who have said, yeah, we want parents to be able to know what their kids are doing. But we also understand there are circumstances that are different and that are special circumstances, and we need to address those. And so the situation has been addressed. So this isn't about abortion. This is about parents' rights.
This is totally overreach as far as disenfranchising our families. And I think that is completely wrong, and people are seeing that that disparity exists in this law. And then, of course, there are some other things about children being involved in medical decisions that are also addressed in that law, that also just don't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting. We're going around saying that kids can't have guns, they can't smoke until they're 21, they can't
get a tattoo.
can't get a tattoo till they're 18 or 21. They can't rent a car until they're 25. These are relatively minor things, but sex change operations and abortions are quite enormous, quite enormous
Yes, they
decisions. Whether you're pro-choice or pro-life or pro-trans surgeries or against them, we can all agree that they're pretty monumentous decisions in people's lives. Not like smoking a cigarette. And yet we say that you can't smoke a cigarette until you're 21, but we want to make it so you can have an abortion and not tell your parents until when you're 12. Like, the things that don't connect. And so, again, it's not about abortion. It's about parents being able to be involved in their kids' lives. And it seems like, and the Oregonian had a really great editorial about this.
Yes, they did.
They said that. Again, the editorial, the super conservative editorial board of the Oregonian said, hey, if you want to address these issues, go get a judicial bypass system.
Right.
But you're not doing that. So super conservatives.
Exactly.
So anyway, there's your objection to that.
I mean, this bill just proves a profound disrespect for parents and their ability to raise their children.
And quite frankly, I think the messaging that has come out of the House and Senate Democrat caucus that we've seen shows a remarkable disrespect for the intelligence of Oregonians, saying that you're trying to stop, and then we'll talk about this one a little bit later, but that all 2002 does is guarantee abortion rights. That's not what it does.
It's not what it
does. So they're assuming that, quite frankly, they assume Oregonians are stupid, which is offensive to me. And but hopefully, apparently, they think it works. So that's one objection.
The other thing that this points out is the inability to address compromise.
Right.
Because our Democratic leaders have said over and over and over again that 2002 is not on the table. It will go.
Right. And not even 2002 isn't on the table, but amending 2002.
Amending 2002.
Saying, can we change some things to make it more palatable? And the answer is always no. You can't touch it. There's no amendments, nothing. We're shoving this one through.
Yes. This is one of those bills that was built in the dark and then dropped. And you can't do that. If you're going to have committees that are going to work on things, they need to be bipartisan. The consequences need to be fully examined before you decide to make something into a law.
Right. Okay, the next objection that we've heard is you're not representing all your constituents. It's an interesting one, considering
I will tell you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will tell you that my staff is very diligent. They go through every one of my phone calls and every one of my emails, and they read them all, and they report what the demographics are of things that people care about and their opinions, and then they record this. And I will tell you that that 80% of the people who have contacted me to tell me their opinion of what they are doing are in favor of what we're doing.
Right. I'll also point out that in my conversation with him, that's not counting the emails that are about the bills themselves. So I think you've gotten a ton of bills opposed to HB 2002, far more than you've gotten in favor of it. So we're not counting those.
No.
Just addressing the denial of quorum.
Right.
Right.
And so I am paying attention to my constituents, and I am addressing them when they pose questions or ask for a response. So we are, I mean, we are paying attention, and we are paying attention to who is contacting us from outside of our district, who is contacting us from inside of our district. So we have all of that data too. And
Yeah,
that data mirrors the whole state's data.
right. And I think it's as much as possible, because obviously if somebody writes in, doesn't sign there, and doesn't add their address, no,
Right.
I don't think
We have
staff
no way.
running through names through voter vault or anything like that to try to figure out, hey, are these people?
Well,
But I will say again, if you want a response, and I've talked to your staff, and they missed a few, they apologize. It happens.
It
And I know everybody apologizes when you get nearly 10,000 emails. Couple are gonna get through the cracks. So apologize. I know they try to get to it as much as they possibly can, but
and I will tell you that I have gotten a lot of form letters.
yeah,
And these are letters that come from, they're form letters that come from unions and special interest groups. And people just are sending them over and over and over again. They're the same words, and they leave the union name at the bottom of where it came from.
my favorite one is when they leave in the subject line, personalize here.
Yes, I love that part.
Yeah. So those emails, it's pretty. I've worked with those systems before. They take about 10 seconds to send. So, as opposed to somebody who sits down, even if they thoroughly object to what you're doing, sit down and actually writes out an email saying, "Here's why I think you're an idiot." Fine, that's fine. But the form letters,
And then, the ACLU also delivered a stack of pink slips to me.
yeah, that was cute. That was cute.
So I've been fired. But anyway,
My favorite one,
interesting thing.
the pink slips. There's a number of them that actually say, "Great job, we love what you're doing."
Exactly.
So it's for you folks who are advocates, and I play in that world as well. Be better. We know what you're doing. We catch on pretty quick. Just do your job a little bit better.
Yes. It would be appreciated.
But for those folks who are actually sending heartfelt emails out, those are appreciated. I think it's also important to remember these are binary choices. You vote yes or you vote no. You deny a quorum or you don't. One of those decisions is going to upset other people. So all you can do is say, I'm going to do what I think is right and do my best to represent the people who sent me here, knowing that I laid it all out on the table to these people as I was running for this position, and they knew who I was. And
the other thing is, I have had to take votes on bills that I personally did not agree with. But the vast majority of the people in my district felt that it was important for me to vote in favor of it. And I will tell you I did.
Right. And it's important to think those are bills that you simply you didn't think were necessary. You personally may not have thought were good policy. These were not bills that you genuinely thought were wrong, that violated basic moral decency.
Exactly.
And that's the difference between 2002 and some of these other bills. Here's another one we hear quite a bit, is that the people voted to stop walkouts.
No, they didn't. They voted to make it so if someone had 10 unexcused absences, they were not eligible for re-election in their next cycle.
Right.
That's what it is. And it was a poorly worded initiative. And it was open for all kinds of interpretations, but basically it didn't say, don't walk out. It said, if you do walk out 10 times, or if you don't have an excuse 10 times, you can't run again.
Yeah. There's a number of things I want to touch on here. First of all, just as you said, the people didn't say anything about walkouts. They said that if you have 10 unexcused absences, you can't run for re-election. Right. And I think all of you who have 10 unexcused absences know that and have accepted your fate on that.
Yep.
And sure, I think you'd love to possibly come back in 3.5 years and serve maybe another term. But some things are more important. So there's that. If the unions who put that measure on the ballot wanted to actually say, we're going to vote to stop walkouts, they could have
There's
done that.
Another way to do it.
They could have said, we're going to lower the quorum to 50% plus one person. Yes. They could have done that. And like 46 other states have it like that.
Yeah.
They could have done that.
We didn't.
They didn't. They consciously didn't do that. So
it was tunnel vision on their part, thinking that is what would solve the problem, when they were not looking outside of the scope as to what other states were doing to be able to solve that problem.
Well, you're a nicer
is it
person.
Really a problem?
You're a nicer person than I am. I think what they were doing was they wanted to create political drama and humiliate you. That's what I think they wanted to do. And in the same way, in the meantime, they were also able to do that by making so you couldn't run again.
Yes.
But I don't think they actually thought you'd do this.
No, I don't think they did. And the other thing is, there is one person who decides whether it is an excused absence or not.
Right.
And that is our Senate president.
Right.
And so we have had several issues with people who had excused absences for various reasons before this all happened that were then denied. And there are people that ask for an excuse on Sundays to go to church. And that was also denied.
Right. We're essentially saying, we're laying at the feet of the Senate president. We're saying, we trust you not to be a jerk, not to be an unscrupulous politician, because somebody could have a heart attack and be in the hospital for 10 days. And the Senate president could say, sorry, buddy, unexcused. And make it so they couldn't run for re-election. There's nothing, not one thing to stop him from doing that.
Yes, you're right.
You are just trusting him to be a decent human being. And quite frankly, that's a lot of trust. I think there's a whole lot of problems. And I'll also say, I talked to a number of people who said, I voted for that measure. I had no idea this is what this was.
I know. I have had more people say that to me, including my dentist. He said, I had no idea what this was going to do or how this was going to work, but it sure seemed like a good idea at the time.
Well, and I think it sounded like a good idea at the time because there was no organized campaign against it. Nobody organized the campaign against it. And the talking point was, if you don't work, you get fired. Well, of course you're going to vote for that. Yes. Who wouldn't vote for that? Right. Unless you realize, well, this is what they're talking about. Right. So the people, the answer to that is the people didn't vote to stop.
Here's another little quirk in it. There is a bill that has been brought up, and you can protest your work decision, and in protesting your work assignment or decision, you cannot be denied your job.
You know what? What
And
I
I know
love,
that that's in dangerous situations. However, how is that different?
what I love is when I saw the Oregon Nurses Association, their union,
Yes.
start blasting you about it, and I thought,
Yeah.
huh.
Mhm.
So you mean that if people feel like leadership in their organization and their company is abusing their power and not treating workers well, that they should be able to strike so that they can have and which means not go to
Yep.
work,
Not go to
so that
work.
they can have better working conditions. Gosh, that sounds remarkably familiar.
Yeah.
Um,
Hypocrisy at best.
Yeah. So anyway, the people did not vote to stop walkouts. They voted to make it so that legislators who have 10 unexcused absences can't run again. That doesn't stop walkouts. Uh, News to
No.
SEIU and ACLU and all those folks who thought this was a great idea. You could have just put a quorum measure on. Probably would have
Yes.
passed,
I think it would have.
but you didn't do that. So
No.
I think it's easy to. I think you can say that the people didn't vote for this. We don't know what their opinions are about walkouts. So the whole 73%, every Senate district as opposed to this, that's just not true, and that's just
No, it's not.
a crazy.
And I also know that the people that were collecting signatures to make sure that this got on the ballot were all paid.
Oh, of course.
We had strangers standing in the parking lot here in Safeway, asking for the signature to be able to get that on the ballot. And I remember thinking at the time, since I don't sign those sorts of things, I had to say, who's paying you? Why are you doing this? And what is the harm in what is happening right now? And the young lady who was collecting the signatures basically knew nothing. She just needed the signature.
Yeah. I've had situations where I've walked up to signature gatherers and somebody asked me. I was out of state. I was out of the state, and they said, "Hey, did you sign this for this, 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 and this?" I said, "Sorry, I'm not a voter in this state." And they say, "Don't care. I just get paid by the signature."
Yes.
Lovely. So anyway, we've talked about that one a lot, so we should probably move on. Next one. You're collecting a salary and you're not working.
Well, there's one thing I'm not doing, and that's going to the floor currently. I am in the building. I am working. And the salary is not all that great, if you want to talk about that too.
I think it's important to say that
the salary is not important in this case.
Right. I would say
we're
not
there every single day.
The fact that you're not going to the floor is actually representing your constituents. Because I do not believe that your constituents think this bill, 2002, and some of the others are good. They want you to stop these bills. And the only way that you can stop this bill is to not go to the floor. So I think you are representing your constituents. I just think that these people who want these bills to pass don't like the way you're representing your constituents and want you to, when you were in the House, I remember then leader Christine Drazen standing up and saying, "We're not here to facilitate your agenda."
Yes, sorry, I remember.
The bills that you want aren't passing. That's not our problem. You don't get everything. You don't get to run everything. And the people in your district, they want representation too. And they want representation more than you just saying yes or no. They want you to stop these things. You ran as a fighter. I know you did. You are fighting for your constituents. Some people don't like that.
I'm fighting for common sense, and that is something that does not reign supreme.
Right. Because a common sense bill would be a judicial bypass.
Right.
Okay. Well, based on that, here's another one that we hear a lot, is that you're doing this all to stop abortion rights.
Well, that's pretty funny too, because there is not one bill that is related to abortion rights currently. Not one. There is not one bill that is going to limit any kind of abortion rights.
Right.
We already have the most liberal abortion laws in the United States. What
Right.
this bill was about is removing parents' rights, and it's about sex change surgeries for minors. There's nothing else.
Sex change surgeries for minors with their parents not knowing about it.
Right. It's,
I mean, if parents were working with their kids to have these surgeries, I mean, there's objections around that too. But that's not even what this is.
This is not. No.
This is kids being able to go and have sex change operations, not just puberty blockers and things like that, but actual operations without their parents even knowing.
Exactly. And here's the other thing, quirky little thing. If in their immaturity they decide to do this and they have all of the surgeries, and then they suddenly have a change of opinion as to what they want to be, there is nothing in that bill that facilitates a return. But it does require that insurance companies will pay for all of the procedures.
I wonder, does it require insurance companies to pay for
reversals?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I'm shocked.
No.
Not that shocked. Yeah.
No,
so,
and we heard some compelling testimony of people that had the surgery, and then because they were so young when they did it, and they were so conflicted, and there were so many other things that were impacting their life at the same time, they did this. And of course, once they were on this track to do this, they didn't turn back until it was too late. And the regrets they have. The other thing is, we got a book that's been put out by a number of people that have also had the same sort of thing happen, and want reversals, and it's not been available.
Right.
And the other thing is, you got to look at this too, is do we have the medical ability to safely do this? Or is this still such an experimental thing that what are we doing to children?
Right. There's a lot of European countries who have been doing sex change operations for much longer than the United States. And they've actually dialed back on minors because they've said there's too many problems. But we digress. We digress because that's not what this bill is about. This bill is not about sex change operations. It's about a parent just being able to be involved in sex change operations. If a parent says, you know what, I think I've talked to my son, he says he's a girl, and I truly believe that he is, and I want to support him, fine. You can do that now. But you as a parent should be involved in those decisions. That's all this is about. All this is about. And the lies around that you are anti-trans and you're taking away abortion rights, they are not misdirections. They are not messing with political jargon. They are lies. Flat out. They are lies. Right. So when you hear them from, unfortunately, our friends across the aisle, know that they are lies. They are lying. They are not trying to play politics. They are lying. No, and that's unfortunate. That is incredibly unfortunate. So, not trying to stop abortion rights. not happening. Not something you're expecting would be a thing. Finally, this is one we've heard from both sides. People who really, really support you and really, really wish you would go jump in the lake. Yeah. And it's, you have given up your political career for this. What's your response?
Well, I think that the objection to this is far more important. The protection of parents' rights is far more important to me than a political career. Protecting our children, protecting our parents is far more important than whether or not I get to spend another how many years in office. I still have another 3.5 years to go. I will be. I just think that this is far more important. You know, you get to the end of the day and you're dead, and you go up there and God says to you, well, you can come in, but did you do everything that you could to make sure that you kept people safe? If I can't answer that honestly, that I did everything, then I don't deserve to be there.
Right. And I think that's also true about it being in the legislature, is that if your position there means to keep your position there means that you have to allow for a vote or take a vote that you believe is absolutely wrong and will hurt your constituents, not just saying you disagree with the policy like we were talking about earlier, but
yeah, right,
is fundamentally wrong.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't be there either. You shouldn't be in the Senate. You shouldn't be dog catcher. And well, I'm just so incredibly proud of you guys. You're taking a stand, and you have likely, I know there's some folks who have filed lawsuits saying that 113 was federally unconstitutional, but it's neither here nor there. Wouldn't matter. Federal, unconstitutional, constitutional, doesn't matter. You would, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you'd take the same vote, or you would be doing the exact same thing one way or another.
Well, you got to remember too that I am also part of a lawsuit,
right,
against the Senate because they are not following their own rules that have been in effect since 1979.
We haven't talked about that one, and it's not on the list, but let's talk about that one. Senator Weber filed a lawsuit because it is the rule, and it is statute, that in order for every bill, the summary of a bill, so not the bill itself, but you go
not the bill itself,
bill summary on Orstar or OLIS, and there's a sheet, just one pager usually, and on it has a bill summary. It's just a paragraph, usually, sometimes 2 or 3, that tells you what the bill does. And the rule is that has to be written at an 8th grade level. Now, some of the objections that we've gotten on that is, what, you don't know how to read? You can't read it? Didn't you graduate from high school? That's not the point. Although I will say there's a lot of your colleagues who have been very shocked at what some of the bills they sponsor actually do. So,
exactly. Including 2002.
Yeah. So that's not the point. The point is that anybody who is just an average reading level, which I'm sorry, America, that's 8th grade.
8th grade.
Should be able to click on and know what their legislature is doing. To know what
there is a specific scale. It's called the Fleisch scale.
Yeah.
And it measures, you can put anything into the computer and find out what the reading level of it is. And most of the bills that we have been considering, the summary is at a college level. I had one lady bring me a bill, and it was, relatively one pager. And she said to me, I have read these 6 sentences at the top here 4 times, and I still have no idea what this bill is about. We put it in the flesh scale, and it was on a college level. This is an intelligent woman who is, can discern many things. She couldn't figure out what this bill totally did because the summary was written at such a level that it was too high.
Right. So you sued the legislature,
Yes.
saying that, hey, you
If
have
you
the
have a
rules,
law,
you got to follow it.
you have to follow it.
So,
and there are people alive that were voting on that
Right.
law that brought it forward, and they were Democrats, and they completely agreed with the tactic that we took, which was to sue over it, because we could not get anyone to acknowledge the importance of that. It was just sloughed off as, oh yeah, well, yes.
Well, and so you sued and you asked for a preliminary injunction, which means the court would have said, okay, any bills that don't meet that level of Flesh Kincaid, you have to rewrite the summary or you can't vote on it. The judge refused to give that injunction,
yes,
not
he
on
did.
the merits, but because he said, I think you're right. I think
Yes,
you're
he
right.
did.
But I'm afraid that you may have raised it too late, and that I'm concerned that you may have a difficult time actually succeeding on the merits going forward. And
we have a team of people right now rewriting summaries just to show that it's not a difficult task to be able to write these at an 8th grade level.
And what are you so worried about? Are you afraid that Oregonians are going to actually read these summaries and be kind of upset about what some of these bills do?
Yeah, well, we'll be in court again in July.
Right. So you may have heard that, like I said, the preliminary injunction was not granted. Disappointed about that, of course. But trial still going forward, still arguing on the merits. We'll let you know how it goes. But again, that wasn't about Senator Weber's ability to read.
No,
it
wasn't.
About that you have a law.
You have a law.
Should follow the law, and the law's there for a good reason, because your constituents, legislature, deserve if they are of an average reading level, they deserve to be able to read a bill summary and know what it is actually doing. That doesn't seem like it is too much to ask, unless you think your constituents are too stupid, which I guess maybe some of the majority party does.
It has one line in the book of rules, one line. And it is very clear.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody was able to take something from, even if you disagree with denying quorum, even if you don't support Senator Weber, I hope you're able to actually hear some of these responses and understand that some of the things you're being fed just aren't true. Some of them are flat out lies. Some of them are political theater to try to make you think one way or the other, and some of them are, I think, genuine objections that you just say you disagree with, and that's fine. But I hope these 9 or 10 objections that we've addressed today are helpful to at least help you understand where everyone's coming from, where Senator Weber's coming from, why she's doing what she's doing, even if you don't agree with it.
Yes.
Senator, anything else?
No, I think we've got another exciting week ahead of us.
Yes. Anything fun that you want to point out? You might have your calendar in front of you.
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I'm up for it.
There will be plenty. I think one thing of note is that committees are coming to an end. So even though you've been going to committees, those committees naturally stop at a certain amount of time because there are chamber deadlines saying that only bills have to be done at a certain.
And we've talked about those chamber deadlines in the past in other recording opportunities.
Yeah, go back
Because
and everything else.
they have to do this in order to continue and to be able to end.
Ooh. One thing I think we should probably remember, we did hear, we meant to bring this up, is that one objection we did hear was schools are going to shut down. They're not going to get money.
Oh, you're right. That's not true.
We should just say that really quick. That is not true. We actually have an opinion from Legislative Council. And I would say, if I may, just read this one.
Could you please read that? I think you've got it handy.
Yeah, I do. So you passed HB 5046, which authorizes the Department of Administrative Services to continue to fund services at the current service level. And that goes through September, I believe. So schools, foster care, colleges, housing assistance programs, all of these things, they do not turn off the spigot on July 1st. Unfortunately, I've heard even some of the media talking about that. That is not true.
Not true.
Not true. And that's dangerous talk, because that scares people. So please, whether you support the denial of quorum or not, don't spread that one. That's a dangerous.
And let me tell you, that continuing resolution was passed long before this other came up.
Right.
Because it is passed every year or every session to make sure that the funding goes forward, so that no one is left without the support that they need to be able to carry on their necessary work.
Right. In fact, I can tell you right now that the House passed it on April 24th. The Senate passed it on May 1st, and the governor signed it on May 16th. So it is law.
It's law.
It will. You will not be seeing funding. Government shutdown is not happening in Oregon. We do not see that coming.
Right.
Worst case scenario, I mean, you guys have all said you will come back to vote on the budget on the last day of the session.
Yes.
If that for some reason didn't happen, the governor could call a special session to deal only with the budget, or the legislature could call itself into session to deal only with the budget. And I think since all that work has been pretty much done already, that could be a one-day special session. Boom, 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 off you go.
Yes. One thing that I should also add that I didn't add was the Sunset Transportation District. I had a good conversation with both the governor's office and with Debbie Booth Schmidt, who is the chair of the board, and they are moving ahead positively to make sure that service will continue. They're going to be adding, more lines that had to be discontinued, and so it's very positive at this time. Not everything is resolved, but Sunset Empire will live to serve another day.
Yes, the wheels on the bus go round and round.
Yeah.
And I think important to remember, everybody, we just need to get the wheels on the bus going. There are audits going on. There are investigations happening about how they got to this point. It isn't just free money come raining down on the transit district, no matter what happened, whether it was malevolent or incompetent.
Yes, and I really appreciate the level of involvement from the governor's office and from ODOT. They have been very positive about helping Sunset.
Just goes to show, when you actually want to work together to get something done, you can. And we can. If we put aside the hyper-partisan legislation, that 3-4 bills that are just super duper hyper partisan on one side, if you put that stuff aside, man, most of the legislation that comes through, most of the work that gets done is bipartisan, which is great. So just push a couple of bills aside. You could get my friends are Democratic to get 99% of their agenda across the finish line. They seem to want to double down on this one little thing. So, all right, Senator, we have gone long, but I think these are some important things. These are some important things we needed to talk to, and I hope it's going to be super helpful to folks who have been hearing some things and aren't necessarily of a mind to buy into them, but maybe they raised some questions. I think you've answered them here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And I would say, if you have actual objections, or even better right now, if you have, you want to say, we appreciate you, Senator Weber, please go ahead and send an email. Email's best right now because there's so much going on. Phone calls, they take much more time to get answered. And I apologize for that, but that's just the reality. Email's much quicker. And
the phone system isn't all that great, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, Capitol phone system. Classic Oregon State technology, state government technology, not Oregon State, sorry. Oregon State government technology. State of the art 1995.
Yes,
Absolutely.
perfect.
Anyway, thank you, Senator. We will be back here in a week, one way or another. All right. Thank you very much, Senator, and thank you much, everyone.
Thank you, Adam.